welcome back. We are here for our third segment of Community Tapestry. I am Toni Teague. I am the co-host of the show. And to my right is...
I'm Napoleon Bell, and I'm the Executive Director with the City of Columbus Community Relations Commission.
Wow. Well, we've had so many wonderful topics to cover today, and we are going to talk now about human rights. So we have a representative here from the Human Rights Campaign, because any human right affects us all. So with us is Denzel Porteous. He's a board member of the HRC National Board of Governors. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Great.
Thanks. Great. So, we want to get the viewing audience to know a little bit about you, and we're so excited to have you. So, in your About Me profile, you responded by saying, "I am a creative." Will you tell us what that means?
I think the rationalization for me saying I'm a creative is that I think a lot of the things with which I engage really are there to emphasize the ability that we have to think differently, think bigger, to create things that will impact not only ourselves but society, whatever that might be. So, I love to write, and I'll write creatively about different ideas and things that are going on. I love building websites. I love creating print publications. So a lot of these things for me, it's just a creative sense in terms of thinking about things differently and seeing the world through a different light.
You're also extremely detail-oriented. So how did the two of those balance out? It's important for me to know that when I'm creating something that all aspects of it are considered. And so I think details are important. I mean, the devil is in the detail when you're thinking of the small things. When you take a picture, there's so much meaning behind it. And you may think of it and see it in one different way, but someone else might see it differently. So sometimes you want to make sure that, for example, the lighting is just correct, or, the way that you shadow something really speaks to it. But yeah, I'm very detail-oriented.
Detail-oriented and very creative. Are you from Columbus or somewhere else?
I call Columbus home.
Okay.
Yes, I'm a proud Buckeye. But I originally was born in Jamaica, so the West Indies. Okay. And then I moved to New York City and lived there. I lived in Brooklyn, Queens, and Long Island. And then I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and then came here for college, and then spent 4 years after college here. Then moved to San Francisco, and I was there for 6 years. And I've been back in Ohio for a year and a half now.
So now, are you going to stay in Ohio now?
I'm hoping to.
Stay here, stay here.
I'm hoping to. There's no reason for me to leave. I've got a lot of good adopted family here. I spent a lot of time in Mount Vernon, Ohio, for example. I went to school at Kenyon College, which is right outside of Mount Vernon.
Yeah,
and so
County.
So it's home. It's really home for me now.
So how did Columbus in particular get lucky enough to have you back, especially from San Francisco? And it seems like there's some
San Francisco, New York.
San Francisco, Columbus. I mean, I knew we were good, but
we are that good.
All right.
We are that good.
All right.
It's one of the things my friends say to me and ask me all the time. In all the places you've lived, what's been your favorite? And I definitely think it's Columbus. Actually, I know it's Columbus. I shouldn't say I think it's Columbus.
Tell us why.
There's a wonderful energy here in terms of the people that are here, the creativity of the community, and it's changing and it's so dynamic. Columbus is the 15th largest city in the country, right behind San Francisco, and people don't know that. The one of the fastest technology booming societies as well, outside of San Diego and San Francisco and Austin, is Columbus. A lot of tech companies are looking to come here because we do have a lot of young people who are thinking about, I love technology, but I don't want to leave the area. Why should I have to leave the area? And then just again, the arts community here is so wonderful and phenomenal. So a lot of those things drew me back. I came back for a professional opportunity to work at Columbus College of Art and Design as a director of admissions there. So I think that was part of the impetus, but I mean, everything else is just, it's fortuitous in terms of saying being here is the right thing for me.
That's amazing. So you supported HRC in San Francisco, and now you're also supporting HRC here. So tell us about HRC and what are you doing with them?
So the Human Rights Campaign is the largest organization of its kind that really supports LGBT rights. We've been around since 1980. And I think the great thing about it is that it's looking at equality. So I think that's really the ultimate the conversation we're having is we want to make sure that that all people sitting at the table are having the same equal rights that we all have. When it boils down to it, I think whether it's LGBT rights or civil rights, it's about rights. It's about equality. It's about having access to do the things that you want to do that are innate in the founding of America and what we believe in. And so my engagement with the Human Rights Campaign has been actually since I was in college, or maybe even high school, I should say. But it was really formative in college and really understanding the importance of empowering other people to take ownership of their own life and their rights. And then when I moved to San Francisco, I really wanted to become more involved. I actually was here in Ohio, and I saw a friend of mine host the local Columbus dinner here. And we have these dinners across the country to really help raise funds to support the work that HRC does. And so I was here in Columbus, and a friend of mine was hosting the gala here, and I said to myself, I want to do that. And I thought I'd do it in maybe 3 or 4 years. I went back to San Francisco, and I connected with the people there, and the next thing I knew, several months later, I was hosting the San Francisco Gala. So I mean, it was kind of trial by fire. It was a wonderful event. It was one of the largest ones we had up to that particular date. It was a dynamic opportunity. And slowly I've become more involved. Now I spend a lot of time doing corporate partnership and outreach. So really understanding and helping corporations understand that their employees are just important as the bottom line, and so supporting their equal rights is important for the company. And so I do a lot of that work for the Human Rights Campaign.
Now, our office enforces the Civil Rights Code, and although that doesn't encompass all of the human rights, but so how, being here in Columbus and working with the HRC here in Columbus, how do you rate Columbus? Is there some areas that we're doing great at, and is there some areas that the HRC says, we need to put focus more of our attention in this particular area?
Well, Columbus actually recently we kicked off with the HRC several years ago the Municipality Quality Index, if I can get the word out, and Columbus has been one of the highest scoring in the last 2 years that it's done, which I think is phenomenal. And it's specific to Columbus itself, I think, because outside of the city, there's still a lot of inequality and inequities in terms of workplace equality, for example. I mean, one of the things that really helped tip Columbus in favor was the policies around trans workers and kind of civil same-sex domestic partners. And so those things that Columbus understands, and Mayor Mike has been a champion for these things, to say we want our people who are living here to feel comfortable in their workplaces, to feel respected, and to know that we respect the work that they're doing for us on a day-to-day basis. So when you're looking at the Municipality Index that HRC has created, Columbus is scoring high. Columbus is doing a wonderful job, and will continue to do a wonderful job, I'm sure. When we look at the state in which we live, we're not doing as great. And I think there's going to be a lot of work that's left there. But as a city, Columbus is knocking it out of the park.
Good deal. That's what I like to hear. We're doing it right. Doing it right.
And willing to continue to get it even righter. So you also have a gala that's coming up. Would you like to tell us about that?
We do. So as I mentioned earlier, we host these galas around the country. And this year we'll be hosting our 31st annual gala, which is actually the longest running in the local area. Consistently running back to back. So when we first held this gala, we were hosting it in a basement, and now we're hosting it this year, May 31st, our 31st gala at the Archie Griffin Ballroom at The Ohio State University. And it's really exciting to be able to do that and be a part of that for, again, the 31st year.
31 years.
31 years.
So that's May 31st and 31 years.
Yes, yeah.
Was that done, but was that your detail?
It wasn't my detail, but I could take credit for it. No, but we're looking forward to it. I think we're looking at it and calling it Evolve Columbus 2043, our next 30 years. So really thinking about what Columbus will look like in the next 30 years, but also what can we as HRC do for the local community to help continue to make sure that Columbus is knocking it out of the park in all the right ways.
So in what ways are you hoping that Columbus will continue to evolve come that 2043?
Well, I think forefront of many people's minds has been marriage equality, which I think has been kind of taken the nation by storm. When we think about this time a year ago, where we were and where we are today, it's tremendously different and tremendously positive. And so I think that's one of the bigger issues that we want to really focus on and work with, is bringing marriage equality to the state, to understand that, again, it is a right, and that all people should be able to marry who they love, and be respected for that. I think the other big thing we'll be wanting to really focus on, again, will be trans workplace issues. So Employee Non-Discrimination Act, for example, we really want to make sure that that is something that we take to heart here in the city, and that we are supporting our trans people in our community as well.
Yeah, because we have seen, an uptick in some of the complaints that have come in that arena. So we're actively working in that particular area to make sure that the rights are protected. But speaking of rights and personal stories, Have you heard of a personal story of or the face behind a story that HRC has worked with and has helped?
I could tell my own personal story, and I think that's great. But I think the reality is that there's so many other stories out there. Last year, for this particular Columbus Gala, we had a young man who volunteered his time for us. He was 13 years old. He didn't know how to come out to his parents. He was really afraid of what they were going to say. And for him, being able to volunteer with HRC was a way to become educated personally so that he could share that information with his parents and encourage them to explore the Human Rights Campaign and what we're about. It was really exciting to see kind of his own growth over the last year, to be able to express in a very eloquent way why this was important to him, but then also be able to share that with his parents and say, this is who I am, and I hope that you can support me. In the end, the parents were able to come to HRC and ask for support and advice in terms of resources and what this means for their child. And the positive outcome was that they were warm and they worked to understand and really embrace their son for who he is.
What are some of the initiatives or supports that HRC provides to communities that most people don't even know about?
Well, HRC is actually a dual organization, which I think is really interesting. So we are HRC, the Human Rights Campaign, and that organization really is about lobbying and political movement and action. And then there's the HRC Foundation, and that's a lot of where our educational work comes out of. And people don't, I think, realize that we are two organizations in one. It's like the Twix bar commercial. Which Twix is better, the left one or the right one?
Only they're not battling each other.
No, they're not. They're not. They're working well together. And the HRC Foundation really does a lot of work to support different communities and educate communities. So we do work in educating schools. We work with faith-based communities and in helping people understand, again, this is an equal rights situation, and so we want to make sure that faith-based communities are having understanding of what they can do. We work with communities of color. A lot of communities of color have a lot of stigmatism around LGBT rights, and so we want to make sure that we're working with those communities to educate. And then we're starting to look at some international work. What is our message internationally, and can we support our community across the seas? And of course, we do have a lot of expats, as we call them, so a lot of Americans who are living in other countries. And how do we make sure that, whether they're expats or whether they're just Americans working, we're there to support their equal rights as well. So we're doing a lot, and that's a lot of the foundation work that people don't know about.
That's amazing. So why do you personally support HRC, in addition to the fact that you believe in their mission clearly, because you've been a supporter for many years? Why else do you support HRC, and what do you hope your legacy will be to the organization?
When I started volunteering with HRC, I think at the time I saw myself as being one of none. So being a person of color in such a large organization, and you didn't see many people like me, and I think for me that was important to be able to say, I can't expect someone to fight for my rights if I can't be there and see for myself and be representational of myself. When I sit in meetings for board meetings, or when I go to community activities for HRC and I see a small number of people of color there, I'm a little bit concerned. Why are we not sitting at the table? Why are we not talking about this same issue that's important for us? And so I think that's the most important thing for me. I think and why I continue to be involved and why I continue to be a very visible representative for the Human Rights Campaign is that, there might be a person of color who's out there who's saying, well, this is not my fight. But when they see me, they can say, okay, maybe it is my fight, and I should feel comfortable being a part of it. I think the legacy that I hope to leave, or the way that I hope the organization changes, is that it looks different. Right? So that there are more young people being a part of the Human Rights Campaign and working for their own rights, that there are more people of color that are there. There are more people of faith communities who are also sitting at the table and saying, we can be a part of this conversation. LGBT rights, human rights, we have people in our community who are LGBT, and we want to be there for them as well.
Well, how can they connect with you and learn more about the organization, but then also make that phone call? How can someone do that?
Well, the easiest way to connect with me is to email me at denzelhrc@denzelporteous.com. And that really is just, a primary person. I can just put people in the right direction and put them in the right contact with people. We do have a Facebook group, so I think that's always great and easy to, Google HRC Columbus, and you'll find our group there. And then if you want to find out more about the dinner, you can go to hrccolumbusdinner.com, and you'll be able to find out more information there as well. And that'll also talk about ways to volunteer, to get engaged not only with the gala itself, but also just local community initiatives.
It sounds like a really powerful, it definitely sounds like a really powerful machine that you've all created. And
we are the largest grassroots organization in terms of volunteers. So a lot of people look at us and say, how does HRC accomplish the work that we do? It's because we have such a wonderful base of grassroots volunteers who really just want to stand up and help out.
Why did you start with the lobbying part first? I mean, yeah, so you've got the foundation, of course, but the method that really moves and makes magic is the lobbying, I think.
It is. And I think it's one of those interesting things that that people don't always understand. I think you have to be able to have a seat at the table. And we know that at the table, that means talking in the halls of Congress or having a seat at the White House, with being on the president's task force for LGBT rights, and I think those things were for us the important things to kind of say, let's make sure that the laws are protecting us, so that when we do start educating and fighting the social work, that we can't get fired for coming in the next day and saying, hey, I'm married to my partner. Oh, well, we can fire you now because this state doesn't have employee non-discrimination on the books. So I think the policy, the lobbying, that political work was really essential to kind of get the seat at the table, to make our voices heard. And then the foundation work, the social work, the community building, the grassroots education came next, because we felt that a voice was loud enough that we could really push and talk about these things and help people understand how they can educate and work through it.
Federally, going forward, or are you going backwards? There's a lot of things going on federally as far as policy issues. What do you see, or what does HRC? Are we still making positive gains as far as the rights, or is it just kind of a wash? Are we just kind of going forward because there's a lot of pushback?
There is. I think the positive gains is actually probably a great way to state it. It's not a notion of winning. We're gaining positively. Have we won yet? No. Are we moving forward? Yes. Will we continue to fight? Yes. To continue to have those positive gains. It's one of these things where we think about, where will we be in 30 years? Will we still be continuing to be a lobbying organization, or can we shift our full attention to the foundation work that we do? We would love to be able to say yes. Our president, Chad Griffith, has said to us, in the next several years, he believes marriage equality will be in every state. And of course, as an organization, we're working hard to make sure that happens. We want to make sure that we can support him at his word. So yeah, lots of positive gains. The fight is still there. We're still moving forward, and we'll continue to do that until full equality is reached.
You serve on the national board for HRC's Board of Governors, and you also serve locally. Talk to us about, we talk about having a seat at the table. Talk to us about the skill set that you think, that you see people needing to be sure they have when they come to the table and are ready and are interested in leading.
I think anyone can sit at the table, and I think the meekest voice sometimes can have the biggest impact. So whether they want to come to the table and be a volunteer, and hand out flyers at a gay pride, or sign up people when they attend one of our educational events, I think that's fine. But I think if someone wants to say, I do want to be a leader, I want to motivate people, I want to have larger conversations and make change. I think it's an open mind and an open perspective. It's coming to the table and saying, your way may not be the only way. You may think it's the right way, and you may think it's the only way, but it may not be the only way. And I think that's the important piece about having conversations with others, to see where similarities are, to see where we can meet each other in the middle, and then move forward. And I think that's what a real leader does. They find the common ground to say, we're similar here, let's work together to move forward. And so I think anyone who's coming to the table to be a leader and to really do that kind of work with HRC has to understand there's a common ground, there's a middle place for all of us. But again, as I said, the meekest voice is always sometimes the loudest voice. And so even the people who are handing out flyers and stickers for us, there's a place for them at the table to be a part of this process.
Absolutely. How have you grown personally from your time back here in Columbus?
Well, I love this place, and I think what has been afforded me since I've been back is the opportunity to meet some really outstanding people who are making this community, Columbus, great.
watching the work that Jenny Broughton Bauer is doing, or listening to a good friend of mine who works for ARC Ohio, Joel Diaz, and seeing them really engage in this community and really make Columbus this awesome place. It motivates me to work harder. To not sleep. I was up at 2:30 this morning, and I was typing out emails. But it motivates me in such a way that I'm inspired to speak up more, to give as much as I can to this great city, so that hopefully people who are here stay here. They don't have to leave. And if they do, they come back, hopefully. We'll get them to come back here to be a part of this community. It's dynamic, it's ever-changing, and I think that's what's been beneficial for me being back here. I blog a little bit about Columbus all the time, and I always say great things. So.
I think we need him to work for Experience Columbus or the city. I tell you what, he is.
Or be a commissioner.
My gosh,
whatever you need, you call me. I'll come do it. I'll come do it.
Yeah, I've heard, Denzel, you are one of the hardest working people when it comes. Even in your after your 8 to 5, you still keep working.
It's that Jamaican sentimentality. Normally we have 3 jobs. I feel like I have 10 sometimes, but it's a effort of the heart. And, I'm always pleased to do it and engage in it in any way I can.
That's great. So we got about a minute left. Let me ask you closing remarks. To get people involved, to really get them to sign up, and to really take the issues at heart. What do you say to them?
You don't know who you know. I think that's probably the biggest thing. You don't know who you know. When you're sitting at a table with a friend, you don't know if your friend has not been able to come out of the closet and tell you that they're LGBT. You don't know who you know. You don't know if your cousin has the same problems or experiences and they're afraid to share that with you. You don't know who you know. Your boss may think this is inappropriate in the workplace, and you might keep asking about their wife, and all of a sudden you're thinking, oh wow, I didn't realize they have a male partner. So I think it's important to step up. To learn about the community that you're a part of, and to appreciate it for all of its differences, and hopefully it'll help you grow personally as well.
Great. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you, Denzel.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
and
having
again,
me.
the website?
So for the Columbus HRC dinner is hrccolumbusdinner.com, and you can definitely go there and find out more information about our gala, but also volunteering for the organization as well.
But we got to save the date, May 31st.
May 31st.
May
31st or May 31st.
Exactly right. Well, once again, we appreciate you for everything that you do, and also preventing that discrimination, but also supporting the human rights of all people. Here in the city of Columbus. So we appreciate that. And we appreciate our viewing audience for being a part of the program, our 3 segments that we're putting together. And we hope that you learn something from that, but also get engaged with what we've been talking about. So we have some very important topics for the city of Columbus and beyond. So once again, on behalf of the Community Relations Commission and myself and Miss co-host, Miss Toni Teague, appreciate you for viewing the show. And also be sure to check in on the Facebook page, at our Columbus Community Relations Facebook page. And if you have show suggestions, give us a call at my office, area code 614-645-1994. Have a great week and take care.